Hello, welcome to When the Smoke Clears. I am the Recovery Plug. I hope you guys are doing great today. I know my day's going just fine. Before we get this session started here, I'm gonna ring us in like always now. So let me get ringing in mode here. Give me just a minute. Okay, if you please indulge me in a moment of silence for a few minutes. Nam myo renge kyo, nam myo renge kyo, nam myo renge kyo. Eternal Buddha Shakyamuni, please guide me. Energies of the world, energies of the universe, please guide us. Please let this episode be a grounding episode, an episode of looking at things in a different way. Perhaps let this be a stepping stone for someone to move past an adversity, to get to that next stage of their spiritual life, of their journey of recovery. And if someone's out there that is still in the world of addiction, in the world of that suffering, may this episode bring them along into the path. Thank you. Alrighty. Well, now that we got the setting right, the mode right, the tone right, the spiritual mood of the energies right. So what I want to do is I got a little friend here. He's just flying around here, and I my Buddhist ways doesn't allow me to just splat and splatter. So I gotta let him do what he does, right? But but anyway, I guess he's my co-host, right? He's my partner there. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna we're going to talk about something here today. Now, I want to thank you guys, first of all, for your donation of being here, for giving me that time, your precious time, to perhaps today's episode brings you some clarity in some part of your life. Perhaps it brings some answer to maybe someone that you know, that may be looking for an answer, that you can possibly share this with someone. So yeah, what I want to talk to you guys about today is understanding impermanence. I'm understanding impermanence in a recovery and spiritual path. And again, like I said, welcome back to those of you who are rejoining, who have been along with me on this journey, right? Who partake in watching my videos, and I appreciate that. I the only way to help the addict who still suffers, and to help those of us who are seeking a spiritual path, is by sharing a message, right? So thank you for your donation. Now, today we're diving into I believe most yet, I believe we're going to be diving into I think it's the most liberating yet. Maybe it's a bit terrifying, maybe a little bit intimidating sometimes. And maybe it's just intimidating in the truths of both addiction and spirituality, right? And that's impermanence. Impermanence is in recovery, we often say that this too shall pass. When we're talking about cravings or emotional pain, but in Buddhism, impermanence or anicca, which is impermanence in Pali, or inatya, which is also impermanence in Sanskrit. Now, this is not just a coping mechanism for bad times, but I believe it's the very nature of reality, right? It's the very nature of reality of that constant change. It's a realization that everything is in constant state of flux, that everything is constantly changing moment by moment by moment. Now, let's explore how embracing this truth can keep us sober, perhaps grounded and free from suffering of clinging to control. Before we get into this, I want to take a moment to kind of it's always good, I believe, to take a moment to really get your mind focused on the topic, and so that you understand it in a better way, because when you're giving something your undivided attention, things start happening. You know what I mean? Things that you normally don't work with, that are activated in your mental thought process, start activating, right? They start helping. And so what I'm going to do is let's take a moment to bring your attention to the present moment. Now, let's get into a comfortable position if you're able to, you know what I mean? Wherever you're at, just get in that comfortable mode, and let's if you can, close your eyes, and if not, just gaze there, at something, focus on something, and let's just take a deep breath in, a deep breath. Here we go. And let it out without any sound. Take another deep breath in and let it out without any sound. Now just watch your breath. Notice it going in and out. One breath is there. Then the same breath is no longer the same. As you exhale, you're filtering it so that it is ready for the next being to absorb that beautiful energy you just helped create. You understand that when you're breathing in and you're noticing, you're being mindful, you're here in the present now. If you understand that, when you're breathing in, you're giving life to all this stuff internally, right? That macro part of that granular sense of you know what I mean? Your vessels, your cells, all of that stuff is regenerating there. And you let that breath out. Now you filtered it. Now it's out again, for that the next being can absorb that energy. That's how that energy works. You know what I'm saying? And that's the impermanence. That's the constant change there. Now, notice that this act of minor meditation is impermanence at work. The impermanence or the inconstancy, it is the foundational teaching that all conditioned things, including our physical bodies, thoughts, and emotions, are in a constant state of flux, continuously arising and passing away. Okay, take another deep breath and exhale. Great. So now that we took part in emotionally and physically understanding the definition of impermanence, let's talk about that in a recovery sense. Like in my Buddhist practice, I practice recovery dharma. Now, it's like recovery refuge in a sense, right? Now, here we learn that the root of our foundation, or the root of our addiction, was sometimes desperate. Sometimes a desperate attempt to freeze our experience in a sense. Like we want to keep always being there, right? Now, we use substance or compulsive behaviors because we wanted to hold on to a good feeling or escape a painful one that we're fighting. And in that, compulsive behavior and wanting to hold on to that good feeling, we're escaping, or not escaping, but we're actually fighting the natural law of change. You know what I mean? Because when you're feeling these things, it's yourself, your consciousness, your body telling you that it wants to change. It's uncomfortable there. It's not. It wants to change, and it's asking you. That's that fine line there that a lot of us in addiction and in a life of compulsive behaviors, and sometimes it's in a life of just not being spiritual, we fight because we want things to be our way. It's our way or the highway. And when you notice that, there's always a resistance there, right? Now, think about your active addiction. It was a constant cycle of craving, clinging, and that led to constant dukkha, or suffering. Now, the Buddha taught that dukkha, which we often translate as suffering or unsatisfactoriness, arises when we try to make permanent what is inertly impermanent. And that's one of the things in being an addict, and this is just my personal experience, that we want everything to stay as is. You know what I'm saying? That's that clingingness to wanting not to let go of a loved one or the feeling that you're getting or whatever, right? It's just that sense of not wanting to let go of that ego, perhaps. You know what I mean? And because I think a lot of people who deal with behavioral issues and patterns, compulsive behaviors, and addiction, I believe that they are afraid of the change. There's a fear in that, right? Because there's a fear of losing control. When we're in the addiction, we're in this little secluded bubble, and we think that we have control of our lives. In fact, we're just living a life of illusion, right? But we crave a chemical high. We are trying to force a fleeting feeling to last forever. Now, this is for any addiction or compulsive behavior. It goes all the way around the board there. Now, when we avoid feeling grief or anxiety, we are fighting the very nature of our emotional change. Now, we must let our natural cause of change take place for us to move to a better state of being. And when we resist, we stay stuck in the cyclical world of suffering. You know what I mean? And that is that fine line there that a lot of us who are suffering from those type of things tend to overlook, because we're too focused on that thing, on that attachment, on that feeling, on that thing that we want to last forever, right? Now, in a Buddhist way of looking at impermanence, we can look at it two ways. We can look at it in gross and subtle impermanence. Now, gross impermanence is obvious change. We can see. You know what I mean? People want to, that's just the things that you can see, the changing of seasons perhaps, people getting sick and dying, you know. It's a favorite thing that you have eventually breaks. These are all the little things that causes grief and suffering. That's the gross impermanence. Is that, I believe, that thing that's attached to the five senses, right? And to the seeing, hearing, taste, touch, feeling, and so forth, right? Now, subtle impermanence is that moment by moment change. The moment by moment flux of constant change in a very granular level, like your cells in your body constantly changing and regenerating. Now, your thoughts in constant change, coming and going, your breath in and out, never breathing the same air twice. That's the subtle impermanence. That's the granular part. That's the things that are of the reality of nature, right? The cause and effect of the change. You don't know why it happens. You don't know why you breathe this air in. You just know that you have to have it. And you don't do it willingly. Like, you don't do it like, oh, I got to breathe now. Oh, I got to breathe. No, it's the constant moment to moment thing that is just part of the natural laws of cause and effect. You know what I'm saying? Now, why, you might say, does this distinction matter in recovery? Because subtle impermanence means that you are not a fixed, unchangeable identity as a broken person. That is an illusion. You are changing every second. Each new moment is an opportunity to make a different choice. You know, recovery is an ongoing practice of this subtle impermanence. You know, every morning we wake up with a fresh slate. Every day we are tasked with rebuilding our path of recovery and our life of spirituality. You know, one breath, one meeting, and one right action at a time. Change is not the enemy of our recovery and spiritual path, but part of the core foundation of it. You know what I mean? When you understand that you have to have drastic change. There's one thing that I understood in my life of recovery and spirituality, that I had to have drastic change and be willing to be vulnerable to that drastic change. Because if you try to change with resistance, you're going to be stumped every single time. You know what I mean? The resistance means that you are always having that reservation. You know what I'm saying? The reservation is there just in case. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to just keep this reservation here just in case, you know, my life of recovery just happens to get a little deep, then I can just always, you know, I always got something to lean back on. But that's the little stump that keeps you going back into the cyclical world of suffering. You know what I mean? And it's not only an addiction, it's in anything, you know, grief, depression, you know, any of those types of things. You know, when you're clinging on to something, that's the reservation that's going to keep you, reverting you back to the cyclical world of the suffering. You know what I'm saying? Now, when you allow yourself to be vulnerable to the drastic change, because for a lot of us, the drastic change is imperative in our life of recovery and spirituality. I know it was in my case, you know what I mean? In my case, I had to have a drastic change. I'm talking about people, places, and things. I had to change every single part and every single aspect of my life in order to get to where I'm at today. Had I set a reservation down for any part of the life that I was living and clinged on to that, then I would have ended right back where I began. You know what I'm saying? I would have ended right back in the cyclical world of suffering, in the world of addiction, and who knows what else I would have gotten myself into. You know what I'm saying? I'm just grateful that I was able to find a path. And my path is the path of Buddhism. That was what got me clarity. That was what allowed me to be vulnerable to the constant change, to the impermanence of that constant change, moment to moment to moment in my life. And seeing the constant change, seeing the gross change and the subtle change in myself. That's the motivator. Because when you see that constant change in you, man, does that light a fire of beautiful energy, man, that allows you to want to share, allows you to want to lead a different path. And when you constantly do this under the repetitive basis, because you get that chance every single day that you wake up. Every single day you're a new person. Every single day, like I said earlier, you have a different slate. You can start building again. And building on that foundation that you left from the day previous. You know what I'm saying? Which no longer exists. So that's why you have to build a new foundation. Because you're in this constant change every single day. You know what I'm saying? Because at any single moment, you can revert back to the old ways. That's just the human nature, right? But because you're in this constant change, you're putting this consistent spiritual and recovery path in front of you and doing things like that on a repetitive basis, it allows you to move forward. It allows you to break walls down otherwise that kept you secluded in this little bubble of you, right? Now, that's one of the reasons I wear my mandala beads. Because the mandala beads for me is the constant reminder. Every time I see these, every time I touch these, I know where not to go. I know what not to think. I know what not to say. You know what I'm saying? That's the beauty of the consistency in the world of impermanence. Now, you know, I'm grateful that I'm here doing a video today. You know what I'm saying? And I'm a day late, but nonetheless, I'm here doing it, right? And I just, you know, I wanted to just bring that to the forefront today, just to give you guys some food for thought, give you something to think about perhaps this weekend. You know what I'm saying? Understanding that everything that you see outside, everything that you're doing is in constant change. You're all part of this world of impermanence. And it's a beautiful thing, man, because we get that clean slate. You know what I mean? And you're a different person every day, man. And you can stay beautiful every day. You can stay in that beautiful energy every day. Because every day you're gonna need a new wave of energy to navigate you through your day that day, right? And I'm just amazed at how a consistent journey, a consistent path has allowed me to elevate my spiritual know-how, my spiritual wisdom, my spiritual practice, and my the constant understanding of living a life of recovery, right? And not only that, but allowing myself to be able to give away what has helped me along the way to the addict who still suffers, to that person who's still dealing with something, who is in the struggle. And by no means am I away from the struggle, because I suffer all day, you know, just like you do. You know what I'm saying? We're not. No one's immune to the suffering. We all got to deal with it. It's just how you deal with it is the key. Make sure that you're dealing with it with the right view, because in turn there it gives you the right action. And so yeah. Anyway, that's what I wanted to talk to you guys about today. That's the message of today, that, you know, be grateful. Nothing lasts forever, and know that that suffering will change, and it will change in a better and faster way if you allow yourself to be vulnerable to the change. You know what I'm saying? Be vulnerable to the new things that come to your life. Explore, so that you're not staying in that cyclical world of suffering. You know what I mean? And know that you got to do it with the help of someone else. You know what I mean? That's one of the key ingredients there, is involving yourself in a community. You know, get you go to a meeting, perhaps go to a Dharma recovery center, maybe go to a spiritual place. You know what I mean? It didn't matter what it is. Every spiritual community has different things that they can help you with. So, you know, when you're doing it with somebody, and them when you're doing it, that's the proven method, right? The way of the 12-step program, and in Buddhism, you're following a proven method of somebody who has already been there and done that. That's the beauty of it, right? It's basically a no-fail proof system in a sense. So long that you follow the exact path, right? Now, and following that exact path is going to allow you to see your path, because your path is there. It's just you gotta sweep that debris of delusion out of the way so that you can see it. And once you see it, then you'll be able to move past some things. And that's being vulnerable to the change, right? That's being vulnerable to the change and being teachable to new things, right? But anyway, I'm grateful that you guys were able to give me a donation of your time today. Appreciate that. Now, if you would at this time, just click the subscribe button, hit the like button, go subscribe. Just know that when you do that, you're helping out another veteran, another homeless person, another person dealing with PTSD, childhood traumatic experience, drug addiction, emotional pain, grief, suicidal thoughts, depression, all those types of things, my friends, because you know what? At one point in time in my life, I dealt with all of those things. You know what I mean? And you know what? I know a way out. And my way out could be your way out. So until the next time on When the Smoke Clears, I am the Recovery Plug. Now I'm going to ring us out. If you would please indulge me. Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. Eternal Buddha, thank you for guiding us. May you all have a blessed day. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for watching. I am the Recovery Plug. We'll see you next time.